Hello, welcome back to a new video. If you are new here, welcome. My name is Lorena. I am a self-concept and manifestation mentor, guide, teacher, coach, however you want to call it. And it is really my goal to show you how powerful you are and to help you step into and become your future self. Spoiler alert, your future self is already within you. So you can manifest and create the reality and the life that you deeply, deeply desire. And today we're actually talking about the topic of manifesting relationships. And it's a topic I probably get asked about the most. It's also when you look on YouTube or any platform, it's what people are the most curious about. It has the highest search volume. People go wild over it. People want to know how to manifest a partner. People want to know how to maybe manifest a specific person even. And although it's a topic I get asked about so frequently, I've never addressed it individually. I've never created a video on this topic in particular. I always teach you how to manifest pretty much anything, and I keep it quite general. And today I'm going to share with you why I usually keep it quite general, but I'm also going to talk about the actual topic because I know it's so intriguing for people and it's such a deep and heartfelt desire for many of you. And at the end of this video, I also have a little announcement for you, a little surprise for you. So make sure you stay until the end if you're curious to find out what that is and if you're curious to dive deeper. But for now, what I really want to start with is saying why I do the work I do in the way I do it. And if you're new here, you might not know this, but if you've been here for a while, you know that my primary focus is not the manifestation itself. It's getting you into a strong and solid state of being, strong and solid self-concept, changing your perception of yourself, changing your beliefs about yourself. And the reason for that is because it's really the basis to manifest anything you want, right? Like a lot of the things you desire are way easier to step into, way easier to open yourself up to receiving when you have a certain opinion of yourself. If you're insecure, if you feel not worthy, if you feel not deserving, if you think you're doing something wrong, it's going to be a lot harder for you to manifest the things that you want. And that applies in particular to anything with a strong emotional charge. And relationships, especially romantic relationships, tend to be cases with a strong emotional charge, right? There might be a lot of backstory attached to it. There might be things that happened in the past, in particular if you want to manifest a very specific person into your life or back into your life. There might be stories that play in your mind. There might be beliefs that you have about relationships as a whole, beliefs that you have about love in general, beliefs that you have about men in general, beliefs that you have about specific people, beliefs that you have about yourself. All of that obviously plays into what outpictures in your reality. All of that plays into the things you suppress in your subconscious that you then find in your reality afterwards. And it can be a long way, right? I often speak to people or I often start working with people who have actually been on this path for a long time, who have successfully manifested many things, who really believe in this. Not everybody, but a lot of people reach out to me that actually do, that have been on this path sometimes for years, but the area of relationships is still the area they struggle with. Why is that? Why do people struggle a lot more with relationships? You know, the reason I keep it quite general most of the time is because the way you manifest a relationship is the way you manifest anything else. There is no difference. But because of this strong emotional charge, because of this backstory that we have, and because of this association with our worth, because of societal conditioning, it can feel a lot harder. And there can be some barriers that we set for ourselves unconsciously that make it harder for us. So today I'm going to give you a few key learnings, a few key things that either people do wrong and things that might help you some questions that you can ask yourself, some things that you can start implementing. And the first thing I already touched on, self-concept is key when you're manifesting a relationship. The biggest mistake that I see people make is that they make it about the results, they make it about the outcome, they make it about another person, how another person shows up, or how several people show up, instead of making it about themselves. And the reason this backfires is because it only scratches the surface. So you might even manifest this connection that you desire, but you might not be able to maintain it, and the same patterns repeat over and over again later on. Or you keep going in cycles, right? Like one day you feel like yes, this is done. I fully believe in this. It's coming, or it's already done. And then the next day something happens and you get triggered and you don't know how to really navigate it and how to alchemize it to actually support you. And all of that often happens because you put the focus on the relationship itself. You put the focus on what's wrong, on the problems that you have in it. You put the focus on what's not working. You put the focus on another person and how another person is supposed to change. If you make this about other people in general, if you're really honest with yourself, it probably doesn't even feel good. It doesn't feel good to want to control another person. And frankly, it's not love. Wanting to control somebody else doesn't come from a loving place, does it? It's not unconditional. Unconditional love is a whole other topic, but instead of making it about how another person shows up or how another person treats you, make it about how you show up in this dynamic. Who do you want to be in this relationship? How do you want to see yourself? How do you want to carry yourself? What behaviors do you want to have? Manifestation is not about controlling anybody or anything outside of yourself. It's about stepping into the state where that reality is already existent, where you just tap into that feeling, into that state, into that embodiment, doesn't matter which wording you want to use, which brings forward that dynamic that you want to experience. Through that state, you are automatically making different decisions, taking different actions, showing up differently, talking differently, and that is going to draw in the version of another person or another person in general that matches that exactly. But if you are trying to control somebody else, even if that's generic, right? Even if that's not a specific person, if you're trying to control how somebody else shows up for you, you're actually not showing up in your strongest embodiment. You're not actually being your highest expression of yourself. Because would you want somebody else to control you? That wouldn't feel like love. And then the second thing that goes along with this, right, that also is about not putting so much emphasis on the outcome, on the other person, on the relationship, is because it can create obsession. It can create a lot of attachment, and attachment creates resistance. If you are sitting here waiting for something to change or chasing somebody or obsessing over something, guess what state you're in? You're in a state of waiting. You're in a state of hoping. You're in a state of not being in your power. Not only does that not feel good for you, not being in your power, giving your power away, it also doesn't work because it creates so much resistance to what is. It creates so much resistance to, oh my God, what if I experience the thing that I don't want? That you're not even allowing the thing that you do want, which is a particular type of relationship, to come in. Attachment and obsession, also not the same as love. So instead of making it about somebody else or a relationship or any entity outside of yourself, make it about how do you want to show up? Who do you want to be? How do you want to react? What do you want to believe in? That's what you've always got control over, regardless of what's happening outside of yourself. You always have control over how you show up, how you communicate, how you carry yourself. Ask yourself, who do you desire to be in that relationship? Rather than trying to figure out, how can I get another person to show up differently? What kind of person do I want to be? So the first point is make it about you and your self-concept instead of making it about another person, You're not controlling another person, you're not chasing another person, and you're not waiting for another person. The second point is know how to change your self-concept. This is also something that I see people do. Some people already know, okay, I need to make it about myself. If I'm in a strong self-concept, if I'm in a strong embodiment, if I'm in a strong state, if I love myself, if I show up in a certain way, the relationship shifts naturally, right? You might have experienced that. Changes in your relationship dynamic that had nothing directly to do with you doing weird techniques or forcing anything, but it was just because you were living your life and you were showing up in a certain way. Oftentimes, people then realize, yes, it's about the self-concept, but they kind of misunderstand what changing your self-concept truly means. And they start trying to convince themselves of being better than others, putting themselves maybe up on a pedestal. Some of the content, and I'm not putting shade on anyone here, right? Like, I think there's content out there for pretty much everybody, and everybody has something valuable to say if they feel like they've got a message to share. And I'm sure a lot of people have received lots of support through certain techniques that I might not necessarily agree with. So I'm not saying anything against that. I want to make that very clear. But I see a lot of content about feel like a queen, or, meditations to feel particularly beautiful or the most beautiful, or repeating affirmations like, I am beautiful, I'm a queen, I'm a sexy goddess, things like that, which if you like that and it makes you feel good, please go for it. I'm all for it. But I think it can lead to a distortion in realizing what a self-concept even is, because it's not just thinking you are beautiful or thinking you are lovable or thinking you're a queen. You are a queen and you are beautiful and you are lovable, but the real test comes with the action, not with the words, not with believing you're a queen. Sometimes, right, repetition and having these beliefs and really sticking to these beliefs can lead to you taking different action. So that's why it can often work. And that's why I'm saying for some people that might be a good match, right? This is why I'm not saying anything against it. But very often I see that people just get stuck there and don't actually put anything into action. It's actually coming from a place of them trying to convince themselves that they are worthy when there is nothing to convince yourself of, because you already are worthy. There's nothing you can do against that. Ha! Isn't that relieving? You can't do anything to make yourself unworthy. Great. Here you go. You are now worthy of love. But the real shift in your self-concept shows itself not with believing that you are a certain way, but showing up in that way. The real test comes with the way you're behaving, the way you're communicating. And when I say action, by the way, I don't mean forcing. This is very important. I just mean how you're showing up differently. Maybe you're suddenly able to set boundaries in a way that you haven't before. You're able to state your needs in a way that you haven't before. You're able to be more authentic. That's essentially the goal, because changing your self-concept is also not about being anybody else, but it's about being more of you. And you may now be like, what does that have to do with relationships? It has everything to do with relationships. Essentially, if you ask me, everything in life is about relationships. You're always relating to something or someone. A change in your behavior and change in your self-concept, a deep-rooted change, is going to radically transform your relationships. It's going to radically transform the people, the kind of people you pull in, the versions of people you pull in. It's going to transform how people treat you, how people show up for you. And the reason this often takes longer or seems more challenging, not always, of course, it doesn't have to be, for people, and it's like the longest journey for many people, is because they don't actually get to the deeper rooted issues within their self-concept. They only change the surface level of their self-concept, which doesn't radically transform the relationships they have, but only the surface level of these relationships. So any of the beliefs that you want to have about yourself, that you want to have about your relationship, or the relationship you desire, how are you translating that into action? How are you translating that into who you are being, into how you are showing up, into how you are behaving? Are you able to fully allow yourself to be loved for exactly who you are rather than trying to be somebody different? Are you even open to love? Are you even open to receiving? Or are you so preoccupied with running from pain or potential hurt that you're not even opening yourself up to actually receive the love you want? Do you actually assume the best case scenario, or are you just trying to run from the worst case scenario? Because this is the third point, resisting what is, resisting any negative outcome, any outcome of what you don't want. The more you run from that, and I touched on it earlier, but the more you run from what you don't want, the less you're actually focusing on what you do want. You're preoccupied with resistance. You're preoccupied with trying to avoid something. Don't be afraid of potentially getting hurt. A broken heart is actually nothing negative. A broken heart is an open heart. If you're not allowing yourself to open up to all potentials, including the one where things may go wrong, including the one where you may get hurt, including the one where you may not be chosen, whatever your story is, then how are you expecting to open yourself up to the outcome that you do want? How are you then going to let love in? So these are just 3 little points that I have to say for now about manifesting a relationship and kind of things that don't work or things that might be blocking you or that you might get hung up on. But of course, this is a lot deeper. And a lot of times the beliefs that you have come from something way deeper. It can come from the people around you, society, cultural implications. It can come from beliefs that you learned in your childhood and experiences that you made in your childhood or in your teenage years or in your past relationships. These 3 points that I just gave you are hopefully helpful for you, but they are only a first step, a first guidance. So if you want to dive a bit deeper with this, I have actually created a masterclass, which is going to take place next week. If you are watching this after next week, you will be able to get the replay also. And I'm going to leave the link below so you can join us. It's going to be really powerful. I am going to pack everything in there that I know about manifesting relationships, because let me tell you, relationships have been my biggest teacher, and it's been where I've seen the most insane shifts in my own perception, in my own reality, and in who I am. They have absolutely transformed me in the best way, and my relationships have changed radically from being really codependent. That's what I used to be. I used to be really codependent. I used to be the obsessive person. I used to be so focused on the other person. I used to be so focused on getting the relationship, to actually feeling so solid, so safe, and now only calling in the most aligned relationships where everyone in my life loves and accepts me exactly the way I am, chooses me fully and openly no matter what. And it's the most beautiful experience, and I want this for you too, because it's also possible. And it's possible whether you're already in a relationship and you want to change the dynamic that you have. It's possible whether you're single and you want to have an absolutely expansive and transformative, beautiful, conscious relationship. And it's also possible if you've got somebody very specific in mind that you would like to be in relationship with. So if you want to join, then check the link below, and I would love to have you. And if you don't want to join, then still thank you for watching. It's my pleasure, as always. It's a joy to have you here. Make sure to subscribe if you haven't already, and make sure to follow me on Instagram and connect with me there. You're always welcome to send me a DM and connect with me over there. I love you so much. Leave any topic requests that you have below, or leave any questions that you have about relationships and manifesting relationships below, because aside from the masterclass that I'm doing next week, I'm also happy to create more videos about this topic. I love you lots, and I'll see you next time.